Samantha Black, Editor-in-Chief of ScienceBoard, and I'm thrilled to be here today with Dr. Samit Hirawat, who is Chief Medical Officer at Bristol Myers Squibb.
Sure. It was a pleasure chairing or co-chairing this session with Dr. Callahan. And there were three perspectives: a clinician's perspective, a pharmaceutical executive's perspective, and the FDA's perspective on how COVID-19 has impacted the world of clinical trials, and how quickly we all came together and collaborated to really change the way we were working. Some of them has been very positive that can be taken in for a very long period of time. But most importantly, the one thing that we all care about was kept at the forefront, which was patient safety. And that, I think, is the major message we can take away, that if there is to be a silver lining, as Dr. Weber said, then that is that we now have means and methodologies that we can apply to the clinical trial world that will go a long way. Yeah, I think two aspects that we should consider. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, right? And we, I believe, are standing at the cusp of a positive explosion. Both sides. One is the thing about clinical trials, that is in the change in the methodology, but more importantly, on the therapeutic side, because we have now a multimodality approach that we are looking at in terms of the emergence. When you talk about immunotherapies, we've consistently talked about checkpoint inhibitors after checkpoint inhibitor, but primarily directed towards a PD-1 and or CTLA-4. But now we are seeing the emergence of newer targets. We already have the LAG-3 antibody targeting melanoma, and we have the phase 3 results. But as you've seen, even at this conference, emergence of new data for TIGITs. We had a session earlier today on newer bispecifics. We are talking about in the next session on the manufacturing of cell therapies. So immuno-oncology as such, and how to harness that innate immune system of the human body, we're seeing it, and it's truly going to make a major impact on the outcomes of these patients who have a life-threatening disease, and we really need to transform that. Absolutely, it's a pleasure of mine that we are again living up to the promise of being an innovation company. And from that innovation perspective, I'm very, very glad and very proud to say that we are one of the only companies with 2 cell therapies that are approved with 2 distinct targets. And those are now benefiting the patients in lymphoma as well as multiple myeloma. And we have more to come on the cell therapy front when we look at next generation CAR T cell therapies, NK cell-based cell therapies, as well as continuing to evolve towards iPSC-based cell therapies. On the hematology side, again, we are continuing to work on evolving the landscape of what multiple myeloma looks like today versus what it would look like, let's say, 5 years from now. Because we have the next generation of cereblon modulators in development, which have shown real promise in very heavily pretreated patient populations. And now we are beginning to look at conducting trials in the earlier settings to bring that forward. We've got oncology, where not only do we have the LAG-3 antibody, but we are also working with the next generation molecules, as in the cytokine-directed therapies such as the IL-2 and IL-12 modulators. There's a TGF-beta inhibitor. There is IL-8 modulator in development as well. So overall, we have more than 50 molecules in development in the phase 1-2 setting, and we have a plethora of phase 3 trials that are going to be reading out very soon. With Opdivo and Yervoy, for example, we've had more than 30 approvals across 11 tumor types, and we are only seeing the tip of the iceberg for the early diseases. We've got 3 approvals, and many trials are reading out beginning this year, next year, and then thereafter. Look, drug development is not easy, and it's not for the weak of the heart. So we are going to see that there are going to be successes that we'll celebrate, but there are going to be steps that we'll have to take to step backwards and look at it from a broader perspective. If we take one at a time, like cell therapies have really changed the outcome for patients. when we talk about late-stage diseases. But now we are going to be seeing at ASH data coming out on applying these cell therapies to the earlier disease, second-line treatment of large B-cell lymphoma, which are going to be also very, very informative and very, very transformational. Having said that, we know manufacturing cell therapies is a very complex process, and we'll have to work through it and continue to evolve with it, as well as what happens to those other patients who are not benefiting with these cell therapies. How do we break down that barrier and find new ways of treating those patients? If you think about immuno-oncology drugs as are conventionally known and in oncology, well, we've been stuck for the last 6 years, or we were stuck for the last 6 years, just with PD-1 inhibitors and CTLA-4s. We were able to understand the milieu of that tumor, the matrix and the environment that was there in the tumor matrix. We are able to then now bring, after many failed attempts, the LAG-3 inhibitor to bear in a phase 3 trial. We saw the emergence of the data of the TIGIT inhibitors from other companies. Now, how do you apply that? How do you identify and target that population for the best outcomes? How do you begin to combine these modalities? The multimodality therapies, as I said earlier, are going to be the mainstay if you want to achieve that ultimate goal of a cure. So all in all, I think immuno-oncology is continuing to evolve and will continue to grow. We just need to be able to do the personalized medicine aspect of it in a much better way. I am a drug developer at heart, to be honest. But the thing that I care the most about is patients and how to bring the patient voice in the development of medicines that we are developing. Look, as a company, we have the mission of discover, develop, and deliver the medicines to patients who are really battling these life-threatening diseases. We truly want to transform the lives of patients through the science. But we can't do that if we don't engage the patients themselves. And I'm truly proud that in my 2.5 years that I've been at BMS right now, in the last 1 year or so, we've been able to engage the patients, patient advocacy groups, and many of the other collaborators to bring that voice truly into the development. We've been able to amend our protocols, change our protocols so that we don't cause more burden to the patient as they participate in clinical trials, which are that much more meaningful at the end of the day. And so if I can just continue that, if I can truly change the way we do clinical trials by engaging the patients in a proper way, if we can decrease the burden of those clinical trials on the communities and the patients, we have a real successes written on the wall as we look to the future. I think as I look at BMS, we are in fact only a 2-year-old company, if you think about it, with the acquisition of Celgene. We've made tremendous progress since 2019 November to here we are in 2021 November. And despite the challenges of the pandemic, we've had tremendous successes for bringing new medicines for patients with diseases. Whether it be in cell therapy, hematology, oncology, immunology, cardiovascular medicine, we've made amazing progress, and I'm very proud to be part of that journey, to be part of that organization that has the patient centricity right up front.
Great, awesome. Thank you, Dr. Hirawat. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.